All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 232 tonight. We're going to do a little something special. Let Maurice Speak, part one. Uh,
Hey,
Jam bands and music. So it's kind of been an inside joke, a little ongoing inside joke with the show. Some people message and ask why Maurice doesn't speak more. It's all up to him, Nobody's preventing Maurice from speaking or asking questions. It's just whatever he wants to do. So,
yeah, people are
uh,
actually rioting over this.
but so, um, yeah. So I thought we would just interview him, and actually, it's good timing too because Maurice just started a new band and they have a new CD out. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that and both of our music histories and music histories together and stuff like that. Yeah. So before we get started, uh, I put everything up on a link tree now, so everything's more consolidated. All the links to all of the merch store, social media links, all that stuff. So you can check out that link down below. And again, to anybody listening, we switched our host over to Anchor Podcast, so we're on Anchor. We're still on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those audio apps, but again, it was just all migrated over there as the host. So check us out on Anchor if you use Anchor. But before we get started, head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/MindEscapePodcast. For just $2 a month, you'll get exclusive episodes and segments. Some cool stuff up there. I mean, like I said, we've had tons of amazing guests over the last few years. So, we've got stuff with Randall Carlson, who we just had on recently, Rick Strassman, Laird Scranton, just anybody that we've had on the show. There's a good chance that we've done a Patreon segment with them, so go check that out. We're also on Discord if you want to find us on there. And if you're interested in merchandise, these are some of the designs I've created. You can see that Let Maurice Speak one there in the middle at the bottom. I created that.
That's
If
the
you
classic right
you can
there,
see
baby.
it looks exactly like a silhouette of him. So check that out. And yeah, we've got some other designs on there as well. But before we get started, still head on over to indrasweb.org. It is live. This is a social media platform we created to connect open minds. Still working out a few things on that, and also we're still trying to get that in the App Store. So look for that. And we got some entries. Actually, we got like 3 or 4 entries since our last episode.
Oh, you sparked some interest, I see.
So if anybody's interested, we do have a large and a medium left that we're going to give one of them away at the end of March. Thank you to everybody that submitted your entries. And if anybody is interested in submitting still, all you have to do is go to Apple Podcast or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. Actually, Google Podcast, too, for that matter. Leave us a 5-star review, take a screenshot of it, and email that to mindescapepodcast@gmail.com, and that will enter you to win. Again, thank you to everybody that entered. And I will pick a winner at the end of March. What's going on, Maurice? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, my man?
Good. So this is a Let Maurice Speak episode. It kind of started as a joke, and it's kind of morphed its way into
A reality.
a thing. Yeah. Shout out to Sandy. I know she's been looking forward to this episode for a while. I just thought that, you don't talk a ton, especially when we interview guests, because there's only so much speaking time. And if you haven't read the books or done the research on a certain person, I know you usually give me the go ahead to just go along with it. But, what do you feel like in terms of like going forward? Like, are you interested in just doing what we've been doing, or is this something that you do want to talk more? I mean, what do the people want to know?
Well, it's all about having a rhythm, and when you're having a guest on, first of all, we don't. Some of the guests we've had on before, so we kind of know their personalities and stuff like that. But for the most part, if we're having a new guest on, I don't want to break the rhythm. Obviously, you're the host and the main interviewer, so I try and chime in when I can. But um, you've known we have guests on. Sometimes they like to talk, so the whole point of that particular episode is to highlight the guest. So if they're gonna talk, man, we're gonna let them go. You know what I mean? So I try and come in here and there, but I treat it just as any other radio program. I don't want to talk over people, and I don't want to like crowbar myself into the conversation. So if I think of like one or two good questions per episode, I feel like I've contributed something. But I mean, you do a really good job of asking most of the stuff that I'm thinking anyway. But it's a it's a good time. I like the ones that we can interact more, but some of the more serious guests as well, you don't really know their temperament, so I try and just ease into that. I try and read the situation, if you will.
No, I mean that makes sense. And I mean, look, I think what you mentioned too, like when we have people back on, like that first Rick Strassman episode we did, a lot of it was just science questions that I had regarding all this psychedelic research and stuff like that. Um, and
Well, he's a
then,
big name too. We don't want to rub him the wrong way. We want to make sure everything
well,
goes smoothly and stuff like that.
but what I was saying is the second time we had him on, it seemed like you and him developed some sort of rapport too beyond that scope. You guys were talking about like films, and what was that one movie that you guys were talking about, the
The upstream color.
Upstream Color. Yeah, and what was the other one about the guy that smokes
Oh, Enter the Void, I
Enter
think.
the Void? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean that sparked a whole level of interest. We actually got a bunch of emails regarding that and like those films and stuff like that, so that interested people a lot too. So I think
That's
that
cool.
it just depends too, like yeah, I might read these people's books or read all the research or do background research or just be interested in these topics in general. But I think, like I said, once we get these people on the second time, usually I think you flow a little bit better too.
Yeah, it's interesting too because a lot of the people with more clout, if you will, we kind of, I at least I build them up to be more serious in my mind, but that definitely isn't necessarily the case because I think Randall Carlson's one of the most down to earth people. And the last episode we had him on, he's actually fits right into. He could come on like a canoe trip or something, and I see us having amazing conversations around the campfire with a guy like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's a super nice guy and not just a wealth of knowledge, but like generous with his time and that kind of stuff. We had some interesting talk off air from the one night we were going to do the episode, then we didn't do it when you were out of town, and then it ended up working out because you came back into town and we did that episode. So,
Yeah, those could go on for days and days.
um, but yeah, I thought this would be a good time to do this episode. So why don't you talk a little bit about your band that you're in now and the music that you're working on and like what got you back into music? Because I know we both started playing guitar at the same time when we were in high school, like 13, 14 years old, kind of a thing. And then we started getting into bands. But like, what was the catalyst to get you like back into this whole scene?
So we took it pretty seriously up into our through our mid 20s, and then you I think you moved away, you moved to Chicago, and then I kind of I was in more of like a serious relationship, and it was just time to take a real job and try and earn some money and things like that. Obviously your dreams have to come to an end at some point, but I kind of actually at that point I got rid of all my guitar equipment, my pedals and all that stuff, and I'm actually kind of upset about that now because that guitar would probably be worth like three times the amount of money at this point, you
I think
know?
I bought some of your gear from you too for your pedal board when you were.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. But so then I went, probably I don't know, 5 or 6 years of not playing, and I always had like a hole in my heart where that music was. And I think once you play and you've done it, you do it for so long, it just becomes kind of a part of you. And I definitely missed it. But the real catalyst, our good friend Dave passed away. I was a little more close to him than you were, but he was my business partner, and he was one of my best friends. He was coming over all the time, and that was a big event in my life. And I don't even know how I got a guitar, but I had an acoustic somewhere in my house, and I just picked the acoustic up, and I all of a sudden a chord progression like kind of popped into my head, and I would just play the song, and then some lyrics came, and it was a song. It was very inspired by him. And that's how it kind of went for a year or so. I would just nonchalantly, whenever I was bored, I'd grab the guitar and I would just play this song over and over again until I finally completed that song. And then I just had this one song, and I wasn't even like trying to learn covers or jam or anything. I would just, when I felt like it, I'd pick the guitar up and I would play this one particular song, and that's kind of how it went. And then I think in 2020 I had some more life experiences. I had a relationship that kind of fell apart, and then the situation was going down and the world was changing and things like that. And I was in my house, and I went back to the guitar again, and all of a sudden another song came out, and then another song came out, and then the next thing I knew I had 6 songs. And then I kind of contacted one of our friends, Chris, who we've had on other episodes, who's a musician. He has a studio in his basement. And I go, hey, man, you want to, do some recording? And could I come over there and do some recording? And then I started recording over there. I got a hold of this other guy who's a singer, and it kind of took off from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, obviously stuff goes on behind the scenes, and, most people, I mean, some listeners might not know, but you're my actual cousin. We've been very close. And actually,
Right.
you mentioned our buddy Dave. We both have known Dave since we were probably 5 or 6 years old. So that was a tough loss and a shocking one at that. And as you mentioned, you were very close with him the last few years with all your stuff that you were doing. And I think that whole thing, and then you mentioned your relationship, and I know you were going through a tough time. I think that music has the ability to heal and to, take us back. It's almost like we talk about certain things bringing us home, or like that feeling or whatever. I think music's like one of those things too. Like you just connect with, even if you haven't done it in a while. Like when I'm falling asleep, most nights I listen to podcasts, or I listen to a book on tape, or something educational. I want to like learn something or grow every second I can during the day. And as a musician for a long time, all I did was listen to music. And then like 3 or 4 years ago, I just stopped listening to music. And then last night I popped on Hunta, the Phish's first album, and I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like this is
Yeah.
a feeling that I miss. And I haven't, I don't know. I haven't been listening to music lately, but it does heal you in a certain way. I felt great, like when I woke up after listening to that last night. It just kind of, I don't know, opened my eyes again. And you and I used to have seen probably hundreds of concerts together, whether it be Phish shows, jam band shows. We've played a ton of shows together. So,
Yeah, what's funny is I went to a concert last night too, and it was the first concert I went to in a long, long time. It was this band Goose. It was like a
mm-hmm.
newer jam band, but it was really funny because before the show started, I was looking at the stage and I was looking at the instruments and the fog, pouring out of the machine, and literally I had the feeling, because when we were kids, that's all we wanted to do in high school was go to concert after concert after concert, and it didn't matter if it was jazz or funk or a jam band or a cover band or whatever it was. We just wanted to keep going out and seeing as much live music as we could. And it took me back to that anticipation of staring at the stage, seeing all the equipment set up, seeing the smoke rising and the lights just sitting in one color, and you're just all the anticipation of the magic that is about to happen in front of you. And I'm glad to say that the band actually, it didn't disappoint. I went in, it was like going to see a movie and you have no idea what movie you're seeing, and I actually kind of like that. There's aspects that I didn't gravitate towards, like I didn't know any of the songs, so I didn't know the lyrics, and I can't sing along, this and that. But just not knowing what kind of music it was, I had an idea of generally what kind of music it was, but I didn't know what the music was going to sound like. I didn't know really anything. So that was kind of a cool experience. I've never done that. Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, I did that with Umphreys the first few times. People were like, "You got to check this
Yeah,
band." I
yeah.
mean, we had went to see Umphreys in their early days in like 2003, or the first year of college when we were in Kalamazoo,
Yeah,
and you
that's
got
sweet.
kicked out of the show,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
and
took a sip of my cousin's beer and they immediately threw me out.
I was at the whole show, and it was all like, it was good. It was like prog rock, like classical metal, more influence, kind of like the early stuff was a little bit more heavy, but that show, I was like, yeah, this is all right, whatever. But then when
Uh-huh.
when I moved to Chicago, and all of our friends from the Detroit area were going to all their shows. I gave it another shot, and it was a lot bigger. They had some different players in the band at that point. They had Jake, their newer guitar player, and it just was like a whole different thing. And then I got into the music. Like, I didn't know any of the songs, and then I got into the songs. I mean, obviously we were into jam bands since we were, 12, 13 years old, but that Humphreys was one of the outliers when we were younger. They weren't really, like a Dead or a Phish or Widespread or one of those bands. So, but yeah, no, that's interesting. And actually, last night you texted me. You're like, we were thinking we should do this last night, and you're like, yeah, I might just not go to this concert. I'm like, what are you gonna go see? I thought it was just gonna be some shitty local band. He's like, I'm
Well,
going
no,
to
my
see.
friend had a free ticket. I
Yeah,
would
he's like,
never even
he's like,
thought
it's
to.
Goose. I'm like, oh, you better go to that, bro.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
have never seen Goose live, but I've seen a lot of their videos, and I've followed them a little bit on social media, and they're players for sure. They've got some funky jams. So
Yeah, they actually did a really smart thing when the situation was going on and no one could do anything. They kind of just, I don't know if they have a barn or what they have, but they have some location where they just had a film crew and they just played once a week or every few days and they filmed it. Did you see any of those films?
no, I saw there was like some they posted like a 50-minute set not that long ago. It was somewhere, it was outside,
Yeah,
um,
it
and it
might have been
was,
Mexico.
yeah, it was crisp. Yeah, it was really good.
Well, they have a team that films every show, which is amazing. And you couldn't do it back in the day, but now with DSLRs and everything, you can hire like 4 or 5 peoples, and maybe I think they maybe have a couple of GoPros or some action cameras on the stage, but they have tons of material. I think I saw the guy on stage filming, so I know they filmed some of the stuff from last night. I don't know how they decide what they're going to release or whatever, but I went on YouTube and they had tons and tons of stuff, which is a really smart idea, especially in today's age, because we all know that it's kind of hard to make money off of if that's your only job and you're touring, you got to exploit every single opportunity to make a dollar. Obviously, playing live, that's
Yeah, I
going to
mean,
be your main income.
streaming's not going to get you paid. I mean, you
No, but it got that place packed. I mean, they had
right.
a lot of people. So obviously, them putting YouTube videos up and Instagram or Facebook or whatever is drawing them a good crowd. That's how you get your name out nowadays.
Um, Nate asks us in the comments, "Will you fellows be at Deer Creek for Phish this summer?" I don't know. I've only been to we've been to a bunch of Phish shows, but I've only been to one Deer Creek run. Oddly enough, even though I live in Chicago, I usually go to the Alpine Valley runs, and then whatever Detroit shows. I think actually they're playing at Pine Knob or whatever the hell it's called now, DTE or what's it called? Is it DTE?
They put it back to Pine Knob actually.
They did. They
Yeah,
should.
they changed it back to Pine Knob.
I was gonna say that's Pine Knob's an amazing name, and DTE Energy Music Center is just not. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I also wanted to tell Nate that if he wants to check out some of my tunes, I think there's a link
I haven't added it yet,
somewhere.
but
Oh, okay.
when we're done, I'm gonna post the link on this video, and then when I upload it to all the audio platforms later, I'm actually gonna include one of Maurice's songs at the end of the audio episode, instead of our normal outro music. So
I put a link in the chat box. If you copy and paste that, it'll take you to. It's almost like it's like a hub where you can get access to the old songs and then see the song I was talking about that I was inspired by our buddy who passed away. That's actually coming out on April 8th. It's gonna be YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff.
and his band name is Dogo, Doegoe.
Yeah,
Um,
and you can just if you search that on YouTube
are you
or
just selling it or
Spotify or
putting it
whatever.
track by track, or is there an album name or?
I The initial thought because I was talking about how all these songs kind of hit me, and my initial idea was to write 7 songs and then have each song be a kind of a part of what's it, uh, the stages of grief, the 7 stages of grief, and each song was going to be a stage of the grief. But the more I've researched releasing music and all that kind of stuff in today's world, it didn't seem very uh I don't know. I'm just doing them single by single, and I'm
Mm,
trying to do one every month. I had a little backlog of tunes, so I'm trying to release one song every month until this first batch of sevens out. But I guess the first seven would be considered part of the first album. But again, it's a different world now. It's not like someone's gonna buy the album and listen to it all the way through. So I'm just kind
right.
of treating them as singles. I've been using some of my actual photography and art, and you've been helping me too, making kind of cool album art for each individual single, which I think is cool
Yeah,
too.
he'll
Because
send me the pictures that he takes, and then I'll doctor him up with all the words and tricks of the trade, kind of a thing. So,
yeah, man,
uh,
thanks a lot for helping me
no,
out with
no
that. That's a huge
worries.
part.
Happy to help. We've also tossed around the idea of doing like Patreon segments where him and I jam or do songs on there too, which I think we can figure that out. You know, I play music still too, not a ton, but yeah, I mean, I recorded our intro song on all the audio platforms for this podcast, and that's what I was doing instead of podcasting before this. Like 4 years ago, we were playing live around bands in the Chicago suburbs and stuff, and yeah, just decided to not do that anymore, pretty much. And I mean that goes into the whole other thing about like spiritual awakening and getting into all this knowledge quest type stuff. But yeah, I mean I'm down to do music in the future for sure. What was the last show that we went to? Um, was the
That
la-
those Phish shows in Chicago.
I was gonna say, was that what year
It was
was
called
that?
Jellyfish Night.
Was that 2017 at
I think it was 2018,
yeah, it might have been
whatever.
2018, but
2000.
it was at what's that called? Is that Capital One Pavilion or something like that?
No, it's right by the at the Sheds Aquarium.
No, I know, but what's the name of it? I don't even remember the name of it. It's
Something
Northerly
Island.
Island. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's Northerly Island here in Chicago, but yeah, that was we maybe took a little bit too much that night, and we both kind of had some freak outage. So I went home and
Yeah,
had a magical night of
history tour.
watching translucent jellyfish dance around my head. So yeah, it was a
I
pretty
mean, that was the
interesting.
beginning of the pretty much the end for me in the party scene, but it was a good time as it lasted because as much as it's not a part of my life now, it's like you can't. I don't like regret it or anything. I'm glad that I had those experiences. I'm glad that I got to expand my mind in that regard. Don't you
Yeah,
think so?
yeah. So yeah, that was. I just remember thinking like I remember they were playing possum, and this thing just kept getting louder and louder, and I was like, we were pretty close. I mean, um, we were like in
Yeah,
the
we were in
general
the
admission,
orchestra
the
pit or
pit,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember this thing getting louder and louder and louder, and the jams were so sick, and it was like melting my brain and my face, and I just go, I got to get out of here right now. So, um, we got no audio from you, bro. What's going on with Maurice
There we
today?
go, baby.
Uh, Let Maurice speak, and this guy's not even speaking.
Well, yeah, 15 hoops to get the program to work right.
Um, yeah, it sounds like you're having all sorts of issues there tonight. But so yeah, well, I mean, look, we have like a long history. So you got into music roughly the same time. I mean, we kind of both got into it right around the same time. We were both into classic rock and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah,
then
you know
I'm
what's funny is I can't listen to classic rock anymore.
really,
I don't know if it was the summer I was working as a painter and we listened to 94 points. We listened to a classic rock station in Detroit, and they literally it was the beginning of the computers running the show, and they just played the exact same songs every single day. So for whatever it was, the whole month, three
Sweet Home
or
Alabama 17 times in a day.
well, we knew We knew Werewolves of London was coming on around 11:15 every single day. And again, these songs are phenomenal and they're highly influential for all jam bands or any rock bands that are today. And I'm not poo-pooing the music at all, but it's like if I hear John Mellencamp one more time, bro, I'm gonna splash this paint across this wall.
Those were fun. Those days at Prime Source, the burr wars. We would dip these burrs, these little sticky things that are sharp, dip them in paint and throw them at each other and have burr wars.
Yeah, and we were painting with
Lead-based paint.
lead-based paint, the old school, the good stuff, the stuff that really sticks to the walls.
Oh shit, that was funny.
But yeah, I wanted to get back on the point of so when we were in our first couple of bands, it's like you're kids and you're trying to write music, and some kids have more harder upbringings than us. I mean, obviously we've had our ups and downs in our families. No one's perfect, but it's like I'm trying to write songs about meaningful things, and I don't know. I learned the lesson that it's one thing to write a song. It's one thing to try and force yourself to write lyrics. It's another thing to write a song about an actual event that's happened in your life, especially something that has meaning to you. And when you tap into that, it's just a whole nother it's a whole nother animal. And a lot of people have different avenues for doing that. Some people might paint. Some people, I don't know, whatever your artistic endeavor is, but for me it's writing the poetry. And that's one thing I like about music. It's not only is it just it's poetry, it's also this music behind it that like enhances the poetry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, when we were growing up, yeah, we were definitely influenced by, like I said, like classic rock and stuff like that, like Allman Brothers and yeah, just a bunch of like different bands pretty much. But I don't know, how old were you when you got your first guitar? I mean, I got mine when I was a little bit younger than you, but I didn't start playing it until I got a little bit older. Maybe 13, 14 years old. And then I remember you and I went to one day.
Mars.
I was gonna say I got my first real guitar, which is like an Epiphone Les Paul. I don't know. I think when I first had my car, so I was able to drive. So what was 16? We drove to Mars Music, which was, I don't even know if there's still a music store, but
no, it's not. There's only like Sweetwater exists.
I remember we went to Mars Music and we got lost on the way. We almost drove to like Ohio and we lived like outside of Detroit. We almost drove to like Toledo and it was nowhere near there. I don't know how we got turned around. I mean, I do, but it involves Roken the Dalge. But
yeah, there's a good term for you.
We ended up at Mars Music. I bought this guitar, and then Maurice and I started getting into it. I remember your first guitar was like some sort of Yamaha with like a crate amp. You had all these effects, and you would turn it to delay and make it sound like aliens were talking and things like that.
Yeah, it was like an FG shape.
Yeah. And then we started our first band called The Marm, and I thought, for a high school band, we were pretty good. We were covering Dead songs and Phish songs, and
I have no idea what it sounded like. I would love to go back and listen to that to see what it would sound like. Our first gig ever was for my aunt's 50th birthday party, and I know she'll never forget that.
What was it called? Pub Froggies?
Yeah.
And then, we got around though. I mean, like in high school, we must have been decent enough because like we were the party some weekends. Like if we rented out this VFW hall this one time.
Yeah, that was a night we'll never forget.
We made a nice chunk of money and there was a ton of people. And then like afterwards, we got like hotel rooms and stuff and partied. And then we played that one gig at that hotel that one time too. That was pretty insane.
Man, that was a good time. Man, I wish we had if it was now, there would have been video. There would have been all. Think about it's actually better that we didn't, because then there would have been some seriously incriminating things on there. But think about if we did it now, there would have been multiple people filming that stuff. Our buddy had like a farm, and we had a whole festival. It was like we played, and then everybody spent the night on this farm, and things got out of control. And anyways, I've written a few short
down
stories.
On the Marm.
Yeah, yeah. I know we had parents there, but most of the parents that were like chaperones were cool or they knew what was going on, but it was like you're the kids are gonna do what they're gonna do. Would you rather have them doing what they're gonna do out wherever and not monitoring it, or you wanna? It almost seems like when we grew up, our parents like recognized that we were gonna do this stuff, so they just wanted us either near or somewhere where they knew that there was gonna be some kind of supervision. But it wasn't supervision to the point where they're reprimanding us for drinking and stuff. They accepted that we were drinking. Like we used to go to my our one buddy's place, um, and his parents blatantly knew that we were drinking in the basement, but they're like, okay, these kids are in the basement, they're fine. What's the worst thing that could happen? No one, we're not gonna let kids drink, or we're not gonna let kids drive home. We're gonna it is what it is. And then I remember his sister had kind of did the same thing, and one of the kids went home and then she told on him and then like the cops went to the house. It was a whole ordeal. So it's like the kids now, I don't know, it's a whole nother animal.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
yeah.
maybe we were just more responsible, but then I don't want to say that because I feel like everybody says that. Oh, we were the smart batch, and then when we left, everybody the kids became stupid or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that when you look at like the whole music scene back then, there was no music scene other than us. I mean, there was like a couple bands in our high school. There really wasn't like a bunch of bands playing or something, and we were known as like kind of like, we hung out with everybody, but we were like the whatever, like the hippie stoners. But I mean, we also played like sports and stuff like that too. So it was kind of like we had a big different mixture of friends. But then, yeah, I don't know. We really got into the whole music scene, and yeah, I don't know. We both found Phish and found inspiration from Trey's guitar playing and um, Jerry Garcia and the Dead. And I remember we used to trade tapes. I remember you and I remember that I somehow started trading with like VHSs with people back in the day. I don't even know I don't even know where I was finding these people, if they were online or.
Well, they had like a chat room on
Oh
AOL.
yeah, no, it was like GD Live, I think, gdlive.com, gratefuldeadlive.com or something like that, where I was trading tapes with people. I remember I got like a Fish show, Fuji Rock Festival
That
'99
was an
or something.
unbelievable show.
And then we also got um, that Steve Miller band with the Dead, that show.
We threw that in the garbage.
You had all those tapes too. Somehow Ryan, our old keyboard player, gave you like a whole shoebox full of like cassette tapes of all Fish shows. You had like Lemon Wheel, The Great Went. You had like a ton of stuff.
Yeah, and they all had markings. They'd have like an exclamation point next to the song if it was good, and then they would have like three exclamation points if it was unbelievable. So I would just go through this thing and find the unbelievable tunes and play those because it was almost like my own greatest hits. But with Fish, you never know that you could listen to a Bathtub Gin one day, you could hear it the next day. It's a completely different jam, which is awesome. Keeps everybody on their toes.
So like all this stuff was kind of like culminating together, like us learning the guitar, starting bands. Um, we also started reading like Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, Doors of Perception,
Well, I want to jump in
On
right
the
there because
Road.
when we read that book, the Electric Kool-Aid, they talk about this group consciousness, this collective consciousness thing. And I didn't know anything about anything until I saw Fish in 99 and I was a freshman and I've never seen a band climax like an improv jam where it's happening in front of you. That's what's so cool about this music. You could like it or not, but the fact that they're going out on a limb and they're literally it's like they're painting a painting in front of you and you're part of the energy that's going into the art piece. So to be a part of that and to be screaming as they're climaxing and everybody's in this collective thing. So I experienced that. Then I read this book and they're talking about how people are taking LSD and it's helping them achieve this collective consciousness. And then everything kind of just it clicked for us. I was like, there's something here and it's all related. And again, you can call me Mr. Vibrations, but it comes back to that being in this vibe state and everybody like, when you're any of these jam bands, it's cool because everybody is so pumped up for the music. It's like the show almost starts before the concert. Standing in line, everybody starts screaming and yelling, and you feel that energy. It's pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the first time, I mean, we started going to shows when we were a lot younger than most. But I think the first time I felt like something like that was actually at a cover band show. I was at Dark Star Orchestra,
Yeah,
which
that's
is a
cool.
Grateful Dead cover band. We saw the show, and they did like China Cat Sunflower into I Know You Rider, and like the music for some reason just like clicked with me, and I like, I've gotten like the chills or goosebumps from music before, but like to be live and have that like rush over your whole body, it just, there was this like thing that happened, and then ever since then it's happened quite a few times. But I just remember that like clicking back then. I mean, we must have been 15, 16 years old around that time. So um and yeah, I mean, I wanted to play music like that, like I wanted to do that for other people. I mean, that was always the goal, is like, how can we improv, or how can
Get
we play,
people off.
yeah, like how can we play music and like, get people to that place where they're getting the goosebumps or the chills, or they're having that rush over their body, kind of a thing that and I don't know that there's many people that listen to like regular music that get that. And I'm not
I
trying
was
to
just gonna
sound
say, I ask a lot of people that I talk to that are close to me. I go, "Do you get the chills listening to music?" And some say yes, but a lot of them say no. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy, because I thought everybody got the chills when they listen to music. And this goes back to me, like we're talking about why we got into music or how we started. But when I was 3 or 4 years old, my dad used to put this song on in his car, and I used to it gave me the chills, and I had no idea what the music was. I was so young. So whenever I'd get in my dad's car, I'd say, "Put the song on that gives me the feeling." And he knew it was Yes, it was the band Yes and their
it
album
was
Round
more than a
or
feeling by
yeah,
Boston.
yeah. No, 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 it was the band Yes and their album Fragile, and it was the song Roundabout, that beginning intro, because
Oh
it
yeah.
starts and then it
Yeah, the
kicks in. It's
harmonics.
it's phenomenal, yeah. So that was my first experience of getting the feeling or getting the goosebumps. And I'm gonna piggyback that back to when I kind of said I was getting sick of classic rock. Music has a magical element to it, and if you wear out that magical element, you will get sick of it. That's why you got to be careful with. For me, at least, like if I hear a song, I don't want to hear that same song for a couple of days, because you will wear the magic out. And people nowadays, man, they get a song they like, they play that thing till it's dead, which
Right.
is not the way it should be.
So yeah, but my whole point was, and like I said, it wasn't to sound like snobby about like music or anything, but like I know, I don't know, I've asked people about that too. Like I don't know that pop music or a lot of other music does that to you. Maybe a certain lyric, I guess I could see doing that too. If it, like, if you're going through something, maybe, and there's a pop song that has like a lyric that you identify with or something like that, I guess I could see that being the case. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
for the most part, I think it's more of like a musical thing, like that tension and release that happens, or that a specific cadence that does something to, like a specific
Uh-huh.
musical cadence, the way the music moves into something. I think that's how that happens. Um, but
Well, I used
yeah,
to be a full proprietor of the Jam is the main vehicle to get me off or give me the chills. But now that I've been getting older, I've actually gravitated more towards more lyric based songs. And I have found that, yeah, you can listen to a good melody or a good lyric. And I sing along a lot of the time to it. I listen to a lot of music when I'm working and whatnot. So I sing along to it. But I think it depends on the what kind of mindset you're in when you before you even go into it. Because I actually do like some old hip hop, like the stuff that was at the Super Bowl this year. That stuff's up my alley, man. I don't like a lot of rap or like new R&B and stuff like that, but that old stuff, maybe it's just because that's what we grew up with. I don't know, but
right.
if I'm working out or something, that stuff pumps me up. Now, if I'm trying to do something, if I'm trying to relax or whatever, that's not what I would go for. But
Well, I
it's the
mean,
state of mind.
that was, it hits home too, like, because that's what was on, that's when we were in high school, that's what was at parties, Chronic 2001 that just came out, like that was
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying for sure. Um the other thing too is that like that chills feeling too. I think it just comes with a deep connection to something. You like like you get it maybe sometimes because like if you hear a Phish song and like for instance Lizards, that piano solo always does it for me. The second, I think it's like the second break where it goes into the piano solo on Lizards.
Yeah, the minor part.
Yeah, or Foam. Certain things will take me to that place right away. But like, I think it's because I know how hard it is, number one, but also like that it's that cadence, and that certain things do that to certain people. But I think it just really depends on, like I said, a connection. And if you don't really have as strong of a connection to music, like you just listen to pop music driving to work and you sing along with it, or it's fun, or it's, it gets you up or whatever. But to actually have that like special connection where it's like, oh my, another one would be, Broke Down Palace by the Grateful Dead. That one always gets me.
Yeah, I always wonder like these people that love these songs that are in the clubs and stuff and they go ballistic when they hear the song in the club. Are they getting that feeling or are they just pumped up to hear that song? I guess that's just
Right.
music's really interesting in the way that like the sounds we hear, the smells and the tastes, they all can take you back in time and you connect it to a certain memory. And they also say that the music that you grow up with, like when you're a teenager, for some reason that's like lasts the rest of your life. You always will find that music, or like it's like your music, the stuff that you listen to as a teenager, which I don't know what that means. It's obviously something to do with while your brain's developing into an adult. That's like it just brings that music in, and you'll always have a place for it in your heart, even if you find new music, which obviously is pretty prevalent because we keep talking about the same stuff over and over
Right. I mean, you
from
go
our
to different
childhood.
phases too. Like you and
Right.
I have never really been on the same page. Like I remember telling you about Ween when we like first got into college, and you're like, "No, this is too weird. I can't really get into this."
Yeah.
And then I come back, and you and Rob are like listening to every single Ween song there is. And what else? You got into like Wilco and like Radiohead and stuff like that.
Every band that I love, the first time I heard it, I absolutely hated it. And that's not, I'm not even, that's not an understatement. I bought two Fish CDs. I plopped these things in. I go, this is awful. But the more I listen to it, and that's how I like know that it's long lasting. Because a lot of the pop song, I remember hearing Chamba Wamba. I get back up again. I heard it the first time. I go, I like this song. By the fifth time, I go, I hate this song. And the good stuff I like is the exact opposite. The first time I hear it, I'm like, okay, this is okay. But I'm like, I don't really like it. And then by the fifth time, it really happened with the Grateful Dead. I was like, I don't like this at all. And then all of a sudden, these melodies, they made me feel warm inside. And then it's like the next thing you know, you go, wow, this is really interesting because it's not a predictable song. And I think that's one of the bigger components in what we're saying. No matter what music I listen to, I want to find stuff that's not predictable. Because the 1-4-5 progression, we're talking a little
Well, that's
music
how I
theory
got
here.
hit. I remember Rob, I think I was 13 and he was 16 or 17. I don't know. And I was staying with him for the weekend. My mom had just got married to my stepdad and they were like on their honeymoon. And I was staying, that was the famous weekend where I drove through the back of his garage. Um, you're cutting out, bro.
Good
Oh,
times,
there you go.
baby.
This guy's
I'm trying not to
equipment's
get the ice jingling again, man. I
this
don't want to
guy's
get Big
equipment's
Bear.
getting it's fine now because you're coming through your mic. Last time you were coming through your computer,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I was staying with Rob, and I was like 13 at the time, and the driving through the back of the garage with his mom's car. That's a whole separate story. Maybe we'll tell
Yeah,
that a
well,
different time.
we'll glaze over it. Michael, he put his foot down on the gas and he drove.
Let's just
The
say
car
that.
wasn't in reverse.
Let's just say the
The
night
car was in
before.
forward.
The night before, I was taken out with my older cousin, and there was lots of partying happening. I mean, we're talking 6-foot bongs and beers and things flowing for the first time that maybe I was exposed to a little bit too early. But
Yeah, your mind was mush.
but the next day, yeah, is when all that happened. But I remember he popped in to his CD player. I think it was Rift, and the first song I heard was Way. That was the first Phish song I heard. And it was just so bizarre. It like caught me off guard. I'm like, what is this? And then from there, I started listening to more and more. And I remember that next summer I went to Chicago and stayed with my dad most of the summer, and I just listened to Hunta. I remember I went to a used record slash CD head shop in Chicago, and I got Hunta, and I just listened to that thing like every day. And that's how I pretty much got hooked into Phish. And like I said, we were already into like Allman Brothers and classic rock and stuff like that. But and then from there it was all the Dead stuff, and
But
yeah,
that
I
was the
remember.
cool thing about Fish is like I remember hearing a song or two, but I always felt that there was something interesting and unique and strange about this band because you never saw. My sister loved Fish, but I never saw an advertisement for him ever. So I was like, "What is this band?" And
Right.
especially back then, there was no social media, so it's like you either hear about this band through word of mouth. I mean, these guys made it a point. They f- they wanted to spit in the face of. Now I see why because the mass media. You know what I'm saying? It's like they didn't even want to be a part of that. They want to do their absolutely their own thing on their own without, being in Rolling Stone or whatever. Now, obviously, they're hailed and they're in all kinds of magazines and things like that. But that's quite the feat to branch out literally by word of mouth because there was no social media.
Well, I
There
think
was no
that's
other way to promote.
back then. That's how stuff got big, though. Was like this word of mouth. Like if you saw somebody that was super passionate about something, there was no social media. So like if you saw a bunch of people like, oh, you gotta check this out. It's like a secret kind of, and then you look into
Yeah,
it
that's
like
what got me into it.
then you're like, oh my gosh, how does not everybody doesn't know about this? Isn't on like the radio every day, or it's not on TV or whatever. So,
Not on the
um,
radio at all. I don't think
right.
they played Fish on the radio.
No, I mean now you watch TV, they're playing Chalk Dust Torture on like NFL football games in between commercials, and they're playing,
Yeah, you're like, was that really what I thought it
sporting
was?
at sporting events. They're playing tons of Phish songs and stuff. But yeah, back then that was like unheard of. And I remember even at like Monteith, which is a elementary school, some girl in like fourth or fifth grade had that Phish logo, like in the shape of the fish with the bubbles, with the
Yeah,
name
where
in
you
it.
like cover it and it says
She
acid.
yeah, she had it like drawn on her binder. I'm like, what is that? She's like, oh, it's this band my sister listens to or something. I was in like
She
fourth or
was the
fifth.
coolest girl in
Yeah,
school.
I was in like fourth or fifth grade, and I'm like, what is this? So, and then you like want to look into these things more, and it's just there's like some sort of mystery to it, and it's that's why they have a cult following. It's a mixture of things, it's like the word of mouth thing mixed with they are talented, mixed with their stuff is so different and eclectic that it draws a lot of different types of people in. And I think that there's also this recognition among fans of the quality of music. Like I think you will go to Phish fans and a lot of them respect all different types, like hip hop, pop. They all listen to metal. And there's a lot of Phish heads that listen to all sorts of different music. But I think that they recognize the good stuff within each genre, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they know what's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
within certain things. I mean, we all have guilty pleasures too, but
Right, right.
for the
But
most
that's
part,
actually go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say that's actually brings up a question that I wanted to ask you because I saw this band Goose last night. We were talking about it earlier, and for everybody that's tuning in right now, I want you to go check out my music. Band's name Dogo, Doegoe, and we're on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify. So go check that out. But I wanted to ask Michael because we're talking about Fish, and then I see this band Goose last night, and they clearly have a lot of influences from bands like Fish and the Grateful Dead and Disco Biscuits and all these. They're like an amalgamation of every jam band. That's kind of how I would sum them up, which isn't against them because if you listen to music, you're going to be inspired by the stuff that you're into. But
Right.
to be to the level of a Grateful Dead or to be at the level of a Fish, because they played like a 2,500 person room last night. That's a good sized room, but they're not playing stadiums like Fish, which when they came out, or the Grateful Dead when they came out, or even like a Zappa, it's like these bands were so completely different. So my question is, can that happen again? Will that happen again? Like, have all the guitar riffs been played, or can a band create a sound that's so unique that they can generate something like that? Or is it just because the time is time and people write and now it's like there's too much
So
out there to be original anymore?
So what I would say to that is, um, I mean, I thought for a while Humphreys might have been a contender to, take one of those top positions, but you still have the
Right,
dead,
right.
playing concerts, like these Bob Weir, what is he in his 70s? I mean, these guys are old.
But even hearing Humphreys, yes, they're unique. They're more metal jam band, but they're still not like so far out there. When the
Well,
Dead came, they were far. There was nothing
yeah.
like the
So,
Grateful Dead.
but my point is, you still have Phish, you still have the Dead. They're still playing. They're still touring. You still have all these other mid-level jam bands playing.
Yeah,
And they all have different flavors, like you said. They all have like different little quirky. One's got a metal influence. There's a lot of bluegrass influence in a lot of jam bands. There's a lot of
yeah. Billy
um,
Strings is pretty big. He's getting bigger.
electronic music's for a while that was a big thing with Sound Tribe, Sector 9, and Soul. You have all these different like little um uh break-offs and little subcategories and genres. I mean, I remember one of the best shows I ever saw was the New Deal at the Metro in Chicago. I walked in. This was during, maybe I was doing a little bit too much certain substances that keep you up at night. But I remember walking in at like 11 o'clock at night. There was like some opening thing, and then they played from like midnight to like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I remember walking out of the Metro, and it was like light outside. I didn't even know you could do that at a concert, but it was just like a dance party all night long. That was one of the better shows. Another amazing show, Grey Boy All Stars. If people don't know Carl Denson,
They're one of
he's
my favorites. I wouldn't say that they're more jazz jam
so.
band.
But dude, if you were at the show at the House of Blues, like the ground was like moving. You could feel
That's
people
what I like, baby. I
dancing and
like
stuff
that
like.
pumping.
You could feel people dancing. The vibe was there. The solos. It sounded like Soul Dream. All
I
those.
love that stuff.
But anyways, so even some of my best shows aren't even Phish shows or aren't even jam shows. I'm not saying that I don't have those shows too, but I'm just saying like it's like what moves you or like what the thing is. So I think that what we're talking about though, you're asking, will there ever be something like that? I think there will. I just don't think there's space right now because of the Dead, because of Phish. They're still playing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're eating up all of those fans. They're eating up all of that. Like when Phish just announced that huge tour, they were trending on Twitter for like 3 days.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
actually, the way
that's pretty
Phish
rare
actually
for
blew
any.
up.
Yeah, that's rare for any act to trend on Twitter for 3 days, and they're they announced it and then they played their shows in Mexico, and yeah, people were just all over it, and I think people, because of the situation in the world right now, they're dying for that kind of entertainment or to
Oh, they're
travel.
chomping at the bit, baby.
So, but you have, like I said, I think it's just a matter of like, people have a certain amount of money or like a certain amount of time off during the summer, whatever it is, and they have their set things that they do. And until Phish stops playing or the Dead stops playing, or there's going to be something that happens in the future. I mean, who knows? I mean, even Humphreys is getting older. They're all getting up there in age.
Yeah, yeah. But I wanted to
So
jump in because the fact that the reason Phish actually became arena rock is because, I mean, if you look at their trajectory, they were growing exponentially, yes. But in '95 when Jerry passed, that's when they really exploded. So you're right. You need this open window to grab that touring fan because I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
You're
and
right.
look,
A lot of those people do follow them still.
and there's people that love the Dead that hate Phish, and there's people that love Phish and hate the Dead. I don't understand any of that stuff. I mean, it was explained to me from some Dead heads that there was something that happened at like a Phish show where people were blamed or something. I don't know. I want to say it was at like Deer Creek or something. Somebody rushed, some gates or something like that, and there was just some sort of disrespect thing happening. I don't really know. Anyways, but my point is, I never understood that because as a musician, I look at both of them. They're very different. Like you can say they're similar because of the fans and the crowd. You get a lot of the psychedelic culture, hippie culture, that kind of a thing.
Well, they're both improvisational rock bands.
Right, but I'm saying usually in the lot, it's similar. Shakedown people are selling food, people are selling clothes, people are selling pipes, people are selling psychedelics. Like the whole thing's happening there. But
Yeah, because
beyond
that's
that,
the other thing. You might not even like the band, and you could still be participating in their lifestyle, which
right.
we've seen that up. That actually has been sprouting up more and more. The band people don't even like the band, but they know that they can make a living selling, like you said, pipes or whatever on
Well, it's
tour.
weird too because it's almost like a whole community, like subculture within a culture. Because like I said, Shakedown. I mean, you could make a living if you're like a sick glass artist or you have a knack for making apparel or things like that. Um, I think that that's the element that you could make a living and go to every show and have a kick-ass summer going to tons of new stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people that have done that in the past. I mean, you know, I don't know. I know they crack down on vending and vendors and stuff like that, but still, I mean, it allows people that maybe like love a band to have like a creative outlet too.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, my question had a basis because I kind of get discouraged with what I see, but I think that there's always will be an underground um a community that's thirsty for something that isn't like a mumble rap or a techno or whatever, like a Taylor Swift type of music, which is I guess that's
oh, don't
technically
say
pop
that, bro.
music.
My wife loves Taylor Swift.
Well, no, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that's the mainstream music, but our culture has always had the underground scene,
Yeah,
whether it be like the Velvet Underground or a Zappa or a Dead or a Fish. There's always been a thirst for something that isn't mainstream. So just because that's the problem in today's world, because all you see is the surface. If you see when you go onto YouTube, you only see all the videos that are getting good plays. You don't see the iceberg underneath the water that is the actual platform of millions of things that aren't being
right,
promoted. And that's essentially what the music scene is today. It's just there's so much good stuff out there. It's just hard to sift through the poop.
right. And I mean, with the good comes the bad too. I mean, how many times have we been to Dead or Fish shows or jam band shows, and as fun and as cool as it is, there is like a sad element to it too. You see certain things, it's like, oh man, it just
Yeah.
makes you depressed, and so there's that aspect of it too. A lot of people don't talk about that, but and just there's a lot of weird stuff happening too. I remember when we went to It Festival in Maine. Um, we got into the gates. We got into the holding tank the night before. You went with the different people. We both went, but you went with a different group of people.
Yeah.
I remember we got in the gates. We were there the first night, like a holding tank, and then they fully let us in. And I remember we were like some of the first people there, like finding our camping spot. And there was like, it sounded like a million planes were landing. It was just it was the most nitrous I've ever seen in my entire life. Like people, just tanks and everywhere. I just
Yeah,
thought
that's
it just
that's
sounded
that's
like we were at an airport. It sounded like an airport, even though there wasn't actual planes landing, except for maybe Fish's plane at one point. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that. And then, there's a whole, carnival aspect of it too. There's just a whole lot of stuff going on, and it's fun. But yeah, I mean, I think when I got older, I became a little bit more hip to some of the more, I don't know, depressing elements of it, I guess, if you will, to the actual like live shows, So, when I was
yeah.
younger,
Again, you're young. I think it's a young man's game. It's fun when you're older, but that
it's a
whole
young
touring
people's
thing, man,
game,
that's tough.
Maurice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that all right. It's a young ladies and gentlemen's type of game.
Um, but yeah, I think that I don't know. I really, really enjoyed all of our years of traveling. I mean, we were lucky enough. Our parents let us go to when Phish came back from their first hiatus in 2003. We went to these February shows. We went to one in Chicago. Our friend's dad drove us to Chicago, and then we stayed at my dad's house in Chicago, and then we took a Greyhound to 2 nights in Cincinnati and stayed at our own hotel. I think we were like 16 or 17. I can't believe our parents let us do that, but we had good grades and we didn't get into trouble or anything. So, but yeah, that was some, that was some crazy stuff. I think we met a pretty interesting character on the Greyhound.
Yeah.
This
Mr.
guy
Bubblehand.
grew up Deadhead, going to all the Dead shows when he was a young kid, and then got older. He was a little bit more desperate, as you should say.
Rough around the edges.
And then, yeah, I think that was the first time, or the only time I've ever been offered DMT, and I didn't even know what it was really. I mean, we had looked at Irwoods a few times. We understood kind of what it was, but wasn't about to take any chances back then. Especially being on the road and not knowing the city that you're in or anything. But yeah, I don't know.
Are you gonna let your son go on tour?
Not when he's that age. Hell no. Look, I mean,
Yeah.
we're both product of divorced parents. You know, I think that plays
Hmm.
into it.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
my mom was dating her soon-to-be husband at the time, and
but I'm just saying, like, we were good kids in the sense that we didn't really get in trouble, you know, at least
right,
with like the law or anything like that, you know. So
absolutely.
we were able to do things because of our grades and the kind of people that we were. I think that we were showed that we were pretty responsible. So
My mom was a little naive, I will admit that. She had no idea what Fish or Dead was. Like again, like if you say it to a certain parent, I remember the first Fish show I ever went to. My aunt Roxanne was like, "Don't eat a ganja goo ball." I never even heard the word ganja before. I'm like, What's that?" And
right.
she knew exactly what was going on because as soon as I hit that lot, man, I heard ganja goo ball about 15 times.
Yeah, with the basket with the little
Oh yeah,
bandana over it.
a little
Anyway,
spear of death, if you will.
so but yeah, I mean, this whole, I think when people think of that music, they think it's just like, you know, oh, a bunch of hippie stuff. But I think that that kind of music is, it's like, Jerry says it, I think
Yeah, it's religious almost.
in Anthem to
Or
Beauty. He talks,
spiritual rather.
no,
Yeah.
it's, they were given carte blanche, and that's what it is. Like, to be a musician and to be able to just play as long as you want in front of people and they're going to pay you and like love what you're
That's
doing, that's carte blanche. I mean, you're able to, and I think that that's any musician's dream. And I think the other thing that separates, it's like, how many musicians do we know that are like classically trained or they're super sick, you know, they can read sheet music or whatever, but then you go, okay, let's improv or let's jam, and they have no idea what they're doing.
hmm
So it's like a completely different world, even than like from like uh, a person that's in like a musicians union or something like that. Yeah, some of those people could probably do that. You know, there's a lot of good musicians out there, but to improv and to be in like a jam band specifically, to do type 2 jamming. So like type 1 jamming is like the band playing the background music and then the guitar player soloing over it, or the keyboard soloing. It's like one person soloing at a time over the music, the basic foundations of the music. Type 2 jamming is where everybody is playing improv. So everybody is jamming at the same time, which is a little bit harder. And that's what you see with like the Dead and Phish. You know, there's cadence changes, rhythmic changes. There's things happening in, you know, in basically real time that you have to kind of
hmm
adjust to. It's like jazz, you know? So,
Oh yeah,
um,
it's absolutely is. That's one thing that I kind of was a little uh last night I had no idea when a song ended. I had no idea when a song started because I've never heard the band.
but that's also
And then I went
fun too. I
It
think
is
you'll,
fun. I looked at the set list. They played 9 songs the whole show. I thought that they played like 20. The first set was like 5 songs. I thought there was like 10 songs. I did,
yeah.
but what it takes away from is me actually knowing what was improv because like they would go into these jams and if they were improving, if they were making these types of jams up, these guys are unbelievable. But or are they sections that they've already kind of had planned out? Again, it doesn't take anything away from the band, but if they were making up these hits, then I'm really blown away.
So what I would say to that from my own personal experience, and obviously I'm not in that band, but I have
hmm
played in jam bands and, you know, you play live. You'll get into these grooves where you'll reuse those grooves. Like I'll get into like some sort of funk thing that I'm doing, and it might not be the exact same every time, but it's kind of off of a same basic formation. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
And I think that's what it is most of the time, is like they've probably done it in practice or other shows or something, and they all kind of like feel it and they all kind of go into that. It's not that it's the exact same thing, but it's you know, it's a similar thing, or maybe it's a basic chord progression that gets, you know, I mean, how many different ways can you play something? We've seen, you know, how many different ways have you seen Fire on the Mountain, or how many times have you seen, you know, whatever it is,
Yeah, that's
different,
true.
you know, Piper or whatever, in different speeds or slowed down or sped up or whatever. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a never-ending capabilities here. It's
or tube's a good example. Tube can be super fast, tube can be super slow and funky. There's different tubes. Or llama, same thing.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean there's all these different little things, but I think that's why I don't know. I just think that's why we're into the stuff we're into. Like this is kind of a unique episode. The first 50 episodes, we talked a lot more about this kind of stuff that we're talking about now. And then we started interviewing authors and doing just research and talking about, ancient civilizations and philosophy and psychedelics and metaphysics and, all sorts of different stuff. But I think that this is the foundation for all of that stuff that we got into later was this, all this stuff culminating at the same time, the learning music and guitar and learning the guitar and then getting into jam bands and then also discovering the psychedelic community through all that stuff, and then also having these weird experiences and kind of being these outcasts in a way, kind of a thing, and then just kind of going from there. We've always been into weird stuff, right? I mean,
hmm
so
well, music's the first way of actually, altering your consciousness. So
right,
that was the beginning of it all. I actually think it's one of the purest and best ways to alter your consciousness because there's no hangover.
right,
Unless you're listening to death metal, and then you might, I don't know, you might feel the repercussions the next day because your neck. But
yeah,
no, that's again, I love music. If anybody's got any cool bands, drop a link. Let us know about them. I know our buddy Nate was talking about King Gizzard, and I've seen them played on the Phish radio station. So obviously they're part of the jam band scene. I haven't really heard of them, but I'll definitely check those guys out. Now I'm really open to hearing these new bands because that experience last night, like I said, it took me back to my childhood when I saw that stage, that empty stage, and that light and that smoke coming out, and I got the feeling of the anticipation of what could happen that night. And with a live band that improvs, you never know what could happen. That's the cool thing.
absolutely. I mean, what was your very first concert? I remember my very first concert that I ever saw was, I don't know, it was probably like 10 or 11. I think we went to see, my family together went to see Gladys Knight and the Pips at the
hmm
Fox Theater in Detroit. And that was, I mean, to see a Motown show at the Fox Theater, I mean, that's kind of a cool first concert. What was your first
I
show?
saw 311 at Pine Knob.
Oh, okay. That was
That was
probably
pretty
pretty
good.
good.
It was better than nothing. I'm not like a huge
I remember
311 fan. They have a couple of good songs.
Remember when we worked together that first summer? We got all those free tickets. I forgot where we were getting them from, but we got like a ton of free tickets to Pine Knob. And I remember we
Yeah.
went to that one. We went to that Blink 182 show. Paid no attention to the music. We're only trying. We brought these girls, and that was a mess that night.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was a good time.
but yeah,
Yeah, that they used to give out free tickets to these outdoor venues because they were so big, and they booked names of bands from yesteryear, and I think they were just feeling nervous about the Doobie Brothers filling the lawn. It's not that easy when you're not
yeah,
relevant anymore.
yeah. Well, I mean, that was it. Like I remember my first rock concert was Peter Frampton and Journey with a different
Yeah, they
singer.
played there a lot. Yep.
Um, But yeah, I mean, we saw lots of good shows. I mean,
Yeah, I have a book of all the tickets. I've actually stopped getting them because every ticket now is a digital one,
I
which
was
kind
gonna
of
say,
sucks. But
yeah,
I have like
most
a bunch. I have the Fish shows I went to. I have a bunch of Dark Star. I tried to keep every ticket stub. I'm sure I've lost some here and there, but I got this book. It's called Just the Ticket, and it actually has like sleeves and then like a little area next to it where you can write the show and like I guess the set list or whatever. But it's pretty cool. I try to keep them all. I mean, that'd be something to pass on to your little ones. I don't know how
yeah,
many you have, but
that maybe
or if
not,
you
because then
save
they'll be
them.
like, look at this, what this crazy ass did, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, if they can do math and they look at the Fish tour and they're like, "Well, you were 16. What's going on here?" Now let me go.
Yeah,
If they're relevant now, They might just be asking to go see the mumble rap show, and
but
I guess I
again,
might be more afraid to let them go see that than the Phish show.
but then the problem with to your point earlier, you're like, will there ever be that again? I don't know, because it's weird. There's something weird. Like, I mean, is Phish? I mean, I don't know how many people were at It Festival. 80,000
Yeah,
when we were
probably.
there. I mean, Great Went. What did they have? Like 70, 80,000 there, maybe even
Their biggest
100.
show ever was Big Cypress. It was like 100,000.
Yeah, that was crazy. I used to have. Remember, I used to have those discs. We would listen
Those are
to those
phenomenal. That was a
those
12-hour
bootlegs.
set.
Yeah, there was that. No, yeah, there was that one CD. Or the one, there was two CDs. It was like 7 hours worth of stuff. It was their best stuff that we had. But we used to drive around listening to that in high school.
Hmm.
Um, I remember at Cassie's birthday party we did that "Hello My Baby" a
Oh
cappella
yeah, oh
for
yeah. I started writing this book of short stories about all
every.
these adventures I had as a kid, and the first story in the book is about going to the Phish show, and I wrote all about it. But
Somebody was
then that
walking around with her dad's
it's
like
yeah,
Hugh
the robes.
Hefner jacket with a
Yeah,
pipe in
oh
his
yeah,
mouth.
yeah. He had a smoking jacket
This
on.
this this party was like a movie out of it was like
Well,
some high
it
school
was a girl
movie.
from Grosse Pointe, and it was like the Sweet 16s, and Grosse Pointe's obviously a very wealthy city. It's not Hollywood, obviously, but it's close to that. When these girls turned 16, she got a Range Rover as her present. She had this phenomenal house. They had an indoor pool. They had like a game room in the basement, a movie theater, and she invited like 10 guys and 10 or 15 girls. But the problem was the 10 guys that she invited, they each invited like 5 guys, and then they told 5 friends, and then they told we rolled up to this party with like 20 kids in a car. It was me, Maze, Michael, my other cousin, and we went in this place, and all hell broke loose, man. It was, but the dad didn't want to end. It was like this girl's wedding, you don't want to wreck the wedding, so he's gonna look the other way when he sees a guy wearing a smoking jacket, smoking his cigars in the pool room. Those are the good old days, my friend.
Yeah, we have lots of stories like that.
Yeah, maybe we
Uh,
can do an old reminiscing one that's more comedy based, but we've
yeah.
tried to we try and have this podcast be somewhat educational, if you will. But it's a good time to sometimes it's fun to just let loose and reminisce. But um, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have had crazy experiences as they're in their high schools. Leave a comment below. Let us know your crazy story. It's just fun because it's really just about the experiences you have that make you who you are today. You can't abandon those or forget them.
Yeah, I look, as much as I like love everything that happened. I mean, I felt like in high school we were a little bit probably more social than we should have been. I mean, now I look back and I'm like, all the stuff I love learning and all the philosophy and knowledge and all the
Oh, we
science and stuff.
squandered that. Yeah.
I could have been really doing all that back then. I'd be a lot further now, but I mean, I guess part of
But you
it's all.
can't base your life on how
No, I
you are
know.
today because you're not the same person. So what are you
It's
gonna
all about
do?
perspective too, but I think that yeah, I think that I don't know, because sometimes I think that those having those experiences led me obviously here. I mean, obviously that's obvious, some sort of
Hmm.
deterministic path that brought me here. But at the same time, I just think that what if I would have been more interested in the stuff back then? I'd probably be, I don't know, a lot
Oh,
further
are you
along.
kidding me? They had photography classes. They had
The
TV
weird thing is, I took
production.
photography in college. You probably didn't even take a photography class.
I was not all. At that point, I was all about music.
That was right before like digital cam. They had digital cameras, but it was before they became like huge. And I remember we had to develop our
Hmm.
own like black and white film and stuff like that. So
I wish it was still like that. It would weed out all the posers because now it's just it's the same thing with music. It's so easy to just drop a pre-made beat and make some techno. Obviously, there's a lot of junk out there. Same thing with photographers. You can get a new camera now and take a picture, and there's a lot of junk out there. Back then, when you had to take a picture and develop your own film, you had to be into this. You had to be very, very committed. It wasn't just instant gratification. Same thing with like music. You want to make a techno beat, you got to get these certain devices and do it all. It still had that analog nature to it. But again, it's easy to do, but it's hard to be good, and
well,
that's the
that's
way it will
why I
be.
think music used to have to go to a studio to record a studio album if you were somewhat serious about it. And now with computers, I mean, if you have Logic Pro and you kind of know what you're doing, you can record a full CD, no problem.
Right.
Or Pro Tools or whatever you're using. I remember, I mean, I've been using that technology for a while. I mean, I've been using Logic Pro for the last, I don't know, 6 years, 5 years. But I mean, before that, it was Pro Tools and different DOSes, digital audio workstations. But you look at that Zoom thing that you and Rob had too. That's what we used to have to use back in the day, is this like actual analog recorder, and you plug into this thing, or you plug a mic into it and record whatever instrument separately, and then you kind of like, patch it all together. But with technology now, anybody can do anything. I think that's why music's so diluted in a way. Like, yeah, there's cool stuff out there, but like,
Yeah, like I said, you got to sift through the
I'd say
caca.
I'd say only like 20% of what people recommend that I listen to is actually worth listening to. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And again, I'm still searching for that. Wow, this is something I've never heard before. Maybe we have to go back to the Mozart days. We're waiting for someone to play to write a symphony or something. I don't know.
well,
Maybe music will reset altogether because the
but
stuff, the way that we're going, it doesn't seem like anything's that original. I mean, well, think about the most popular stuff now is cover songs.
right. Well,
Crazy. Like,
go back to what you were saying before too. Will there be another big huge band or shift in me? Like, I don't know, because music's so weird now. Like, if we keep furthering what's going on with technology and AI and everything, is everything going to be so digital and so overproduced that it's just, you know what I'm saying? Because I think that there's an element to jam bands that's human. Like,
yeah,
if you
it's not
you know,
perfect.
there are some jam bands that play to click tracks, but there's not many. And even if you play to a click track, it's still hard to stay exactly on beat with the click and not go off of it. And sometimes bands improv off the click, and there's different ways to do it. But yeah, I think that, I don't know. It depends on what I think where technology goes, because that's where all this stuff's running off of, all the current music and streaming, and people producing stuff at their own houses or whatever. Yeah, there's people that still do studio stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I think that it'll be interesting to see what the future of music holds, because right now I don't really know or identify with anything that's really new other than like the underground jam stuff, and I know there's people that feel that way about like metal, there's people that feel that way about punk, there's people that feel that way about whatever it is. And I think that, and again, there's nothing wrong with being into pop music and just listening to pop songs too. It's whatever you want music to
Yeah.
be for you, or whatever you need music to be for you, pretty much. But
Yeah, but it's weird because the piano and the MIDI, that thing has definitely obviously changed dramatically since a grand piano or whatever, one of those upright pianos.
well, that's how
But
I
the good,
recorded. Anybody that's listened to our intro for our audio podcasts, I recorded that whole intro. I mean, I'm a guitar player. There's not even a guitar lick on that thing. It's just me using the MIDI controller with piano, strings. I recorded the drum beat. I recorded all that stuff with just a MIDI controller into a Logic Pro. So
but it is cool that the instrument, like the guitar, it hasn't changed, and it might, like, all the stuff you can play through has changed, but the actual root of the instrument, the guitar, the bass, the drums, they're still pretty similar to the I just bought a Telecaster. That's like the first guitar that was ever designed. And it was such a good design. Like, it's one of my favorite types of guitars. It's a classic design. I don't know.
I've taken
Obviously there
one of the original 52 Telecasters apart, actually.
That's sweet.
When I used to be the guitar manager at a Guitar Center, and you have to authenticate like the pots on the inside and everything, because when you take them
Yeah, you
apart,
don't
like
know
if you're trying to sell,
Frankenstein or
well, because if it's a truly an original 52 Telecaster, it's gonna have, like, for instance, if you're taking it apart and you see Phillips head screws, well, those aren't original screws because they didn't have Phillips screws in
Mhm.
52. So if it's got to be a
Yeah.
flathead screw, and then you got to authenticate who made that guitar, through the luthiers that sign the inside and the different parts and stuff like that. And is the neck original? Is everything in good shape? You know, those original guitars usually used to come with little amps too. Does it have the little amp in the original case and all the stuff? I mean, an original, I think we bought it for like $60,000 or $70,000. I mean, they're worth, you know, even more than that depending on the case. But
So those old instruments are still sought after and being used, which is cool. That's, I guess, if anything, that's a glimmer of hope that
an original
the
'59 Les Paul, those were going for 200,000-300,000. I don't know if they still are, but
yeah, that's pretty sweet too. It's crazy that the guitars that I want the most are like these replicas of the old instrument. And then they relic them and split the paint and
well, I was just
stuff.
saying,
It's like I want these things, man.
towards the end of me being there, they started Fender and some of these other companies started doing this thing where they like old like specs that what they would do is run it through these laser scanners, and then they would have
Hmm.
like, for instance, they would take like whoever, like Jimi Hendrix original Flying V, his Gibson Flying V that he used, and they'd run it through the scan machine and laser copy every little nook and cranny of it. And then
Yeah.
they would sell it for like $14,000-$15,000. They would have these special guitars that would come out once a year. They did the same thing with Fender guitars. I remember they came out with Eric Clapton's famous guitar, David Gilmour's famous guitar.
Yeah, that's sick. They
Their
did one for Slash,
their
and they put like the
Fenders,
guitar. He had a cherry fall off his cigarette, and they put the same thing with Eddie Van Halen. Like he burned like holes on
right?
the in the neck and stuff from putting his guitar in between the strings while he's shredding. And then like my buddy bought one of those because he loves Van Halen.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah.
They have
So I
the
mean,
belt rash on the back, and they're all chipped up and stuff. I mean, I don't know. There's something about that old Telecaster that I gravitate towards because it's just like the basis of all guitars. It's like there's no thrills. I know PRS makes some phenomenal guitars, and I know they're like butter in your hands, but there's something about playing a Telecaster that's just like this is
well,
the this is the beginning of the guitar. It's like you can make it whatever you want it to be almost.
right. And the original, like the 52 Butterscotch or like the reissues, even the reissues,
Butters.
if you go into the neck position, it's like so muted you wouldn't even think like what's wrong with this pickup, but that's how it's supposed to sound. That's how it used to sound.
Yeah, I
Um,
like the hot pickups.
yeah, see,
So I'm
I'm
less of
always in
a
the neck position on all. Doesn't matter what guitar. I like that neck, and if it's
so do
if
I.
it's a Strat, I like it second from the top or second.
That's the Strat is the 2 and the 4 positions are the good
Yeah,
clackers.
yep. You get that pop. Um,
Pop and tickle, baby.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I know a lot about guitars, probably way more than I should.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
I
if
don't even use anything.
we're boring our audience with
Well,
guitar talk, but it's cool, man.
but I mean, I used to take them apart, put them together. I used to, fix and work on people's guitars. I've worked on my own guitars, just soldering pickups and pedals and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's the weird thing to think though is like because we were born when there was nothing, there wasn't MIDI. So in 20 years, are kids gonna want to hear guitar music, or are they just gonna be full on robots?
Well, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I know. Okay, so since even the last 5 years, guitar gear has gone up. I mean, I know there's inflation across the board, but like
Yeah,
the music industry for like instruments and like amps and pedals it's gone way up. I remember I had a G&L, which is G&L is the company that Leo Fender, who started Fender guitars, he sold Fender guitars in 1950, or was it 1969 maybe? 62, 69, something like that. He sold Fender guitars and he started his own company, G&L. G&L guitars, by Leo.
yeah,
They made better Fender guitars than Fender guitars. I mean, there's still
yeah.
debate going
Well, he
on.
kept it. He innovated. He kept
I-
going with his
I've
innovation.
always played G&L, and like even my guitar, it has different like each individual pickup. I can adjust each individual magnet as opposed to like a Fender pickup where it's just set in there, and you would have to raise or lower it on each side of the screw, on each
Right.
side of the pickup. Where I can do each individual, magnet piece. But anyways, that's besides the point. Not to get too nerded out here, but but he started his own company. And I remember I bought one of my first big purchases when I was working in the music retail industry. I bought a G&L Green Sparkle ASAT Classic, which is like their version of the Telly from this
It's a
guy I
T
worked
guitar, yeah.
from what this guy that I worked with. And I think I bought it for like $500, which was like a steal. It's an American made guitar. 3 bolt on neck. Normally Tellys have 4 bolts that connect the neck to the body. This had 3 bolts because it gives you kind of like this like angle. You can bend the neck a certain way sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I ended up selling that guitar for like $600 or $700, and I just like looked what it's worth. It was worth like $2,000 or something ridiculous like that. But that's, I mean, it was like considered vintage then. But even like our first amps, we both got Fender Twin Reverbs, which I think I bought mine for $10.99 or $10.99.99. So basically $1,100. I think now what are they, like $1,800 or $1,900 or something ridiculous like that.
Oh yeah.
American Strats, they were down to $600 when I worked there. Now they're up to like $1,000, $900 to $1,000 a piece again.
No, from the American.
Well, the Mexican made Strats used to be $250, $300. Now I think those are like $500 or $600 too.
The entry level for American Strat or Telly is $1,400.
Jeez.
The Mexicans are $9.99.
Yeah,
bro.
see that used to be $250, $300 when I all day long. When I worked at Guitar
It's crazy.
Center.
I know because I bought an old guitar. I don't know if it's not vintage or anything, but it's an older. It's from like 2012. I got my American Special for $900, which I thought was a pretty good deal because you can't get an American guitar for less than $1,400. Obviously, they're the new stock. The new guitars, but still, man, when you buy a guitar, you want that American Strat or that American Telly, especially the Fender realm. You want that American.
Well, it depends on what it is. I mean, because I remember working at Guitar Center, and sometimes we would have like 90s Squier Japanese Squiers that would play better than the American Strats from the 90s. So it just
I've heard those are pretty good.
It depends on like the year, number one, number two, where it's made. There's different benefits to each one. I will say some of the older Mexican Strats, when they've been played for a while and they get that like the neck gets all oiled up and it's not so fresh. Those things play pretty well too, and you start changing the pickups and maybe some of the other components, and you can have a pretty kick-ass guitar. But yeah, I mean, I've made Franken Strats and different guitars in the past and stuff too.
Yeah, they're definitely a lot easier to mess with than a Gibson.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. You can put a new neck on, anything.
I met a lot of cool people when I worked at the Guitar Center. Harold Ramis.
Sweet.
Elvis Costello. Billy Corgan came in. He was wearing like a fishing hat, though. It was kind of a weird experience.
He's one of the Smashing Pumpkins. They're in my top 5 bands. I love those guys.
Who else came in there? There was a lot of like sports stars too that were like building studios, like people that were on the Chicago
Anybody
Bulls.
From Linkin Park?
No, the guys from
wasn't that in Linkin Park?
What's the band with the trumpet? It's like California band with the trumpet. I'm Going the Distance or whatever.
Oh, Cake.
Cake. They not so friendly and not such cool guys. I'll just
What, the whole band just walked in, or was it the guitar?
Yeah,
player?
the whole band was in there, and they were not that cool.
That's a band that's like a unique sound. Whatever if they're nice or not, but that's a band that's like they were pop, but the guitar sounded nothing like normal guitar.
The coolest guys were like
the
coolest guys were like the old blues guys from Chicago that would like come in. Those were like the best guys to talk to be honest with you, because they were, they had cool stories. They were super nice and chill. It's what you would hope for in a, customer. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's, like I said, we met lots of cool people. I mean, I met this guy, Marcus Rezak. He's in, a bunch of jam. He plays with Chris Myers from Umphreys. I used to hang out with him. I sold him one of my old Franken Tellys back in the day. He's in some band Digital Tape Machine and all these different bands.
Nice.
But he does like Shred is Dead or Dead is Shred or stuff like that.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
And then my old bass player who we were playing with the last band I played in before. Now he's the bass player for this band Munyon, who's a pretty big Chicago-based jam band. So shout out to Grant. He's doing a kick-ass job. Keep doing your thing.
That's sweet. Let's get him on one day. That's the next one.
Yeah. You've met him. Remember I brought him to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Phish show?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to talk to somebody from the road, when we do another music one down, in a couple, maybe in a year.
But yeah, I mean, we were fortunate. I mean, you know a lot of kick-ass Detroit players too, and you've met a lot of cool people. I mean, we know probably some of the better players in the Detroit area. I mean,
yeah, I knew a lot of cool bands, and it really just goes to show you that not only do you have to have the skill, but you got to kind of be at the right place at the right time. And there is a little element of luck to becoming successful in the music business.
well, I know
Because
3 players that'll blow how is this person not famous? And none of
right,
them really do anything productive with music anymore. So
yeah. Yeah, again, not only you have to have a little bit of luck, you got to be able to work with your band. And being in a band, I've told someone one time that it's like having a girlfriend, a friend, and a parent. That's like how everybody is in the band. So it's like not only how do you keep all these people happy at once, because everybody has different needs and different emotions, but it's just like that's why all these bands break up and they have
for me though, yeah, for me it was definitely drama. Like, I mean, I was just worn out too. I was recording, I was arranging, I was writing, I was booking, I was doing like all this stuff. Not that my people in the band didn't do stuff, but it's just like I just felt like overwhelmed. And
everyone's got to pull their weight.
yeah, I mean, I was just dumping so much more in. And like on top of that, you have to constantly be getting better at your, like, even if you feel like you're a good musician, you still have to be getting better. You have to always be getting better. And if there's that drive isn't there, or you think you're already there, or you're already good enough, or you're already better than this person or better than that person, then I think that's where you fail.
Well, Jimmy Herring says he practices like 3 hours a night after his gig. So
And
if that
Jimmy
guy's still
Herring's
practicing,
unbelievable.
yeah,
Jake Sininger from Humphreys, same thing. This guy's unreal, and you can tell this guy, you know,
they're not messing around.
no.
It's not like the Motley Crue again, like that Mick Mars. He's a sick guitar player, but these guys, they were party animals. It's a completely different animal. It beast the music scene now because like
Yeah.
that's just not the nature of it. But we'll see. Maybe there will be another Crew down the road.
Yeah, and look, you don't even have to be like unbelievable Flash either. Like, look at a good example would be David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. Like how recognizable and like are his licks? Like everybody knows. So, like the
He might be the
comfortably numb
tastiest one of
solo,
them all. Yeah.
numb solo, breathe, or you name it. There's a million songs. Shine on Your Crazy, yeah.
Diamond.
All that stuff. Have a Cigar, that opening riff, like all that stuff. Those are all super recognizable riffs, and they're not like that technically hard. Like you don't have to be like an amazing guitar player to play that stuff. So
Right. But it's also easy to get discouraged because I just bought a guitar. I've been watching a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people. It's weird how every niche has its own like YouTube community. So like once I started getting into these guitar lessons, like all these people started coming up, and then obviously the best people will rise at the top. But all these dudes do is just jam, like they don't write music or anything. Like they're just YouTube guitar players, which I'm not saying isn't cool or anything, but it's just a different way of music. I don't know. They jam for like a minute. They all have the same formula too. They start with them playing the guitar, then they talk,
hey there,
and they yeah.
I'm
Then
Marty
they play the
Schwartz.
guitar. Yeah, then they play a little more guitar, and then some of them are cool, but it's weird that there's such a community. Like it's like anything. When I started making YouTube videos, like for our comedy channel, I typed in like how to make videos, and then there's a whole group, and it's the exact same formula. Everybody, you guys want to make content?
Well, I was
You
gonna
don't
say
need a good
the
camera.
YouTube thing. That one guy's crazy. What's his name? Mr. Beast. He was just on Rogan.
Yeah.
That guy dumps millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars into their videos. I've actually never watched a Mr. Beast
Seen a
video.
couple of them, man. It's crazy.
I might check it out, but
I mean, it's huge. It's visual garbage, but it is what it is.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I look at that though, and it's like this guy is making tons and tons of money, and then he seemed like a pretty like modest person too. He didn't seem, like
I
what
liked
you,
him way more when I heard him talking on the interview because I've seen his channel, but it's like he figured out the algorithm. He knows exactly what people want. He knows how to do it. He knows how to advertise it, and then he's making a killing doing it, which is fine. But like a lot of these musicians, I mean, it's actually a way for a musician, like you were saying, to become successful playing live music. You got to have all the elements come together and have a band that you can gel with. A lot of these guitar players, it's them making YouTube videos. So again, I'm not gonna poo-poo them too much because they're playing guitar while making $1, but I'd like to see these guys just write some music, get back to the real art form of it. YouTube somehow can kind of suck that away, but
no, I just think that I don't think it's that. I don't think it's the platform as much as it is the way people react to it. I think they're just figuring out how people consume information and data and stuff, right?
well, they get addicted to the hits. Like they know it's
No, but
it
what I'm
happened to
saying,
me as a
you're missing what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not the platform that's doing it. It's the way that people consume on the platform. So it's like that whatever that guy that makes those videos, yeah, he might not have the best quality, camera work or whatever you were saying, but he knows the way that people watch. He knows what people are looking for. He knows how long, how many frames,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm telling you that formula is the death of creativity. Like I was gonna say, me as a photographer, I do a lot of landscape stuff. Um,
Well,
mm,
so just to real quick though, I'm not going to cut you off. We can get back to your landscape stuff, but my point is, it's if you're trying to make money, like if you're trying to make money as a musician, that's what you do. Like that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what you're going to do. But to your point about creativity and being like an actual artist, an artist would just make the art, right? It would
yeah,
just,
all the best artists and all the
and
best
then
bands, they weren't like
people
people are
will
gonna like
find
this or
it,
not. Yeah,
right?
you think Frank Zappa gave a damn
So
about he's people are gonna like this? He wrote songs that he liked, or the best comedians, they just tell jokes that they think are funny. They don't care. That's how they rise.
but
When
my
you
point
skew
is,
your stuff to an audience, that's how you die.
so for what I'm saying is just if for you and for what you're looking for, I would just say to anybody, just do what you are passionate about or what you want to do, and if it translates, it translates. But if you're trying to pander to what people want or are like looking for currently, like if you're trying to pander to what people need or are looking for, then that's how you would do it, right? So it depends on
Yeah.
what, if you're going to be true to yourself and true to your art, you just make the art and people will come if
Oh,
it
I've came to that
resonates with them.
realization a long time ago. It's like
Right.
I can't be like I saw Goose last night. I'm like, wow, man, this would be phenomenal if I could jam like this. But it's like, guess what? You're not. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna do what you do. You're gonna write good singer songwriter stuff. Or it to me, I write stuff that I absolutely love, and that's all you can do. You put it out in the world. And my point about the landscape stuff in these a lot of these YouTubers where you're getting this dopamine hit when I take a good picture and I put it up there and no one reacts, I go, maybe that wasn't a good picture. Then I take a picture and people react. I see, oh, every time I put a waterfall, I get 1,000 likes. Then you're gonna start going out for waterfall, 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 and you're always gonna be kind of skewed because you know that if you take a
Pretty soon
picture
you're
of
the
the
waterfall
sun,
guy.
yeah, I get that. That's fine too, but at the same moment, like if you know that if you write a pop song with a 1-4-5 progression and people are gonna go ballistic over it, then you're always gonna have that in the back of your mind where that's not the way that it should be. That's the social media effect, which sucks. But at the same time, if you're making a lot of money, it would be hard to say no. If I had a YouTube channel, like my comedy channel, I see that a couple different things really get the hits. If you want to go hardcore, then you have to nurture
You mean top cities?
top cities. You gotta give the people what they
Maurice was
want. I don't
making
know.
these top cities comedies, and these people were flipping out because they're like satire. So it would be like a nice, somewhat nice community, but he would make it look like trash or like
No, it's
point
not
out.
a nice community. It's the city I live. I did the city I lived in. I lived in the city for 30 years. Harper
Yeah,
Woods. I made a video, and the whole point of the video is I say the exact opposite. So I'm like, look at how beautiful the parks are, and I show like garbage and like a
right.
rundown park. But again, I showed I was very honest and very truthful to the city. So I posted this thing, and someone from the city got their hands on it. They reposted it on Facebook, and they said, "Look what someone's saying about our city," and people went nuts. It's like, look, dude, I live in the city, man. If anyone can make fun of that city, it should be me. There was a great mall here, and me and Michael, from the time we were, in elementary school, the mall was big. It had all these great stores, and slowly but surely, this place went into the dumps, and now it's just a big pile of brick. And it's crazy to watch something like that happen, but cities rise and fall. The bottom line is, it was pretty cool. It was a really cool moment that satire did what satire is supposed to do. It's supposed to make people look at something. I use comedy for someone to look at something and realize that, hey, maybe this city needed change. I've done it on other cities, and people laugh because they thought it was, they weren't so.
Right.
When
Well, I mean,
something's more
you were
honest,
feeling
then
a
people
little bit
get
of
more.
this. I was gonna say you were feeling a little bit of the civic pride is what you were feeling. Like people taking pride in their own city and being actually like offended by it, but not realizing that it's deeper than that and that you live there yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Right.
not
But
everybody's
there must
that.
have been truth to it, because people don't get mad about something that's so far fetched that it doesn't have any gravitas.
And
If something rings true, then they will, because that's what was happening. I showed something about like the crime number of Harper Woods is like a 2, and 99 is like the safest. And that it's literally a fact off the internet. I didn't make it up. That's the whole point of these videos, is I'm not skewing anything to make it funnier. I just used what was real. And people are like, this is unbelievable. It's like, dude, I'm just telling you the real facts about the city. So,
Yeah, so
take
I
them for
mean,
what you will.
but the point is you're giving people credit for thinking deeply and looking into things. Like somebody
Well,
was
that
just
was my
reaction.
first mistake.
And like how many times do people watch something and they just have like a straight reaction to it even before it's over or whatever? They have like a visceral reaction or an emotional reaction or whatever, so. But
And
yeah,
someone you put a comment that actually made me super proud. He's like, I don't know if he said like it was some ancient Greek, maybe Plato, but they were like, this old did Plato use like humor to like make points and stuff?
yeah, of course. We've talked about all
So
this.
yeah, exactly. So he's like, Plato's been using satire to highlight faults in society. That's what comedy kind of does. It's like, it's so absurd. Let's laugh at this thing, but at the same time, the reason you laugh at a joke is because it rings true a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. I thought you should have kept doing those. That's what it would have taken your page over the top if you would have been the top cities guy, But
Well, I can't do everything. That again, it's like the band thing. It's like you
right.
can't do everything every single day. But
You got
yeah,
all you're doing
maybe I'll do them
diamonds and
again.
sauce reviews on there. You can't have that mixture of like,
That's our biggest
one
player,
video,
man. We got 40,000
one video
views
you're
on
taking dabs, the next video you're doing comedy skits on top cities,
I can't do the dabs because I can't smoke that stuff anymore. I'll lose my mind.
But yeah, I mean, it just depends. Somebody was asking, would we ever talk to somebody from No Simple Road or Helping Friendly Podcast? Yeah, I mean, I will talk to anybody from any podcast, really. I mean, if it's something that we're interested in. I mean, I know
I've never heard of those. Obviously, one's for the dead and the other one's for Phish.
Yeah, I mean, look.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of the Phish or Dead podcasts, because like I said earlier, like I don't listen to much music anymore for some weird reason. I don't know. Now I listen to other podcasts and books on tape, and I'm always trying to learn something now. Like the last 3 or 4 years, if I'm not learning something, I feel like I'm cheating myself out of the day or whatever. But I know you have to also enjoy yourself. Like I said last night, I threw on Hunta and fell asleep, and it felt good.
It was glorious.
Take a couple rips off the vape, and
Yeah, but to get back to why we're kind of doing this is I got some new music coming out. I'd like you guys to go check it out.
I don't have the link up there because let's do this. I'm gonna actually have to repost this episode because it got split up because Maurice's internet cut out. So I'm gonna have to edit this and throw it back up after we're done recording. But I'm gonna add the links to his new singles. And Dogo, check it out. Doegoe. There's a YouTube channel. What else? Where are you? Where else is it? You're on YouTube.
I'm on Spotify. If you look for Dogo on there, you'll see us. We're on Amazon. We're on iTunes. Pretty much anywhere that music's being streamed, or you can buy the singles on iTunes and stuff like that. If you're on YouTube right now, you might as well just go check it out on YouTube. There's a couple of singles. I'm actually releasing another song. Earlier in the podcast, we were talking about one of our buddies who passed away, and it was the reason I got back into music. I had a hiatus for about 5 years, but our buddy passed away, and then I picked the guitar up, and it was like a therapeutic thing for me. That song's coming out on April 8th, and I did a music video for it that I'm pretty proud of. I filmed the whole thing in our hometown, and um, the vibe of the video is kind of it's like a purgatory kind of thing. I tried to incorporate as much feeling in I wanted to invoke some thought behind it, but it goes really good with the music and the lyrics and stuff like that. And it's kind of talking about how 20 years go by, and or you blink your eye and 20 years go by and stuff like that. The day you're born is the day you say goodbye, stuff, just kind of ideas of how fast time's going. And to comment on that, man, I can't believe that it's already March. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, time must be flying for you with the kid, because it's like you're not even thinking about yourself. You're just thinking about him.
No, he's such a munchkin now. I FaceTime.
He's gonna be 20 years old once you blink your
FaceTime
eye.
Maurice the other day with this little guy was smiling away at his Uncle Kev.
Yeah, that
People
was
don't
cool,
know.
man. That was awesome.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm trying to move back to Detroit here sometime soon. So maybe we can start doing our podcast in one room together, which would be cool.
I got you. I got some room here if you want to come here. Or we can
Use
set something up.
your pro all your camera gear and stuff like that. We can do a real pro show.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Obviously, if we have a guest, we'll still have to do that remotely. But I mean,
Or we can pull him out of the cage.
yeah. And then the other thing would be, it would be cool to do maybe like a Mind Escape podcast album, or like work on some music together too. I mean, I still have a ton of songs that I've written over the years that I've done nothing with.
Well, we are working on a documentary, so we're gonna need some music for that, and you guys stay tuned for some of that. I think we're gonna be releasing the trailer here in the next couple of weeks. So that's cool, man. Again, it's fun doing the podcast, but I think deep down within us, we still have an urge to create. Obviously, podcasting is original, but at the same time, I like creating music and different types of video content. So let's combine our passions and do it, baby.
Yeah, I mean, again, the pod or the documentary is going to be, we've got some. I don't want to give too much away, but we've got some experts in the fields and some exciting people involved with it. People that we've had on the podcast, and lots of. I don't know. I think it'll just make people think on a whole different level regarding some of these more metaphysical things that we talk about normally on this podcast. Yeah, we're going to have the trailer out soon. I know Maurice has been sending me updated versions, and we've been going back and forth. Yeah, I mean, to give you a little bit of hints, it's going to have to do with experiences and altered states of consciousness, and possibly, is there life out there kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
and we're going to have guests on. What I want to do is when we release, we'll have a guest, one of the main people in the documentary, on when we release the trailer. Maybe we'll play the trailer during that episode.
That'd be sweet.
And then after that, I want to have a few of the different people that we also have had, that are associated with the project on, and get it all hyped up and everything. So,
yeah, we got a couple of big names out there. A lot of people that are actually heavily rooted in this whole industry. But it's cool because we're taking a couple of different approaches at what's going on. Is it mental or is it actually physical? And I think that it's nice that we're leaving it a little bit open-ended, because I like movies that let people actually think for themselves and kind of come to their own conclusions.
Yeah. And I think, Maurice is really, really good at editing now. And I think between some of the in-person shots that he got mixed with some of the interview stuff and my ability to mess with sound and audio and stuff like that, I think we're going to be able to make a pretty kick-ass documentary. So
Yeah, I had a good time. I don't know if Michael wants me to tell. I went up north and did some filming.
yeah, no, don't
It
give away
was
too much.
all right.
We'll get him on. We'll get
Hey,
him on the podcast, and then we'll actually
perfect, perfect.
show the trailer, and we can talk to him about it and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
cool, man.
yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. And this is our first documentary, so I think that it's part of like a learning process too. But I think once we get this done, we can do some of the other projects, we're thinking about working on in the future too.
Yeah,
I
something to cut our teeth on.
I always thought we should make a documentary too, like one on Bump and Simplicity and that whole, and maybe even Natives, the New Dawn, and like that whole like movement that was happening. I think that would be an interesting documentary on like music in Detroit and stuff.
That'd be phenomenal. And I have a bunch of behind the scenes stuff from Simplicity, and I'm sure I could get it from the other bands. That would be really cool, man.
Yeah. You could
But
even
let's
interview them
one
all
thing.
now to, like you could do like a
Yeah,
thing then and then, so,
yeah.
but
If we can track them down. Yeah, man, a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline. I feels good to get back in the music, and like I said, it felt like a piece of my heart was kind of missing. So no matter
I'm,
what comes from the band, like I really don't have any expectations. I just want a couple people to hear what, again, when you create art, you want someone to see it, but at the same time, it's like I know where what I am, and I know my place, but it's like I I like a lot of our fans are really nice and cool people, so I figured the first people I want to hear it are people that are down with the Mind Escape thing, man. They would be definitely a good judge of if whatever the feedback may be. I'm down. You can say you hate it. I don't care. It's
no, I
art.
mean, I like it. I mean, look, I've been supportive of all your past bands and I know,
There's been
um,
some stinkers.
well, I mean, no, look, you did the LLE. Like we had our band, the Marm, in high school, and then from there, it kind of transformed into this other band he had with our other cousin Rob. Shout out to Rob. Leg Ligament Eye, because they took a
Uh-huh.
ligament from our cousin's leg and put it in his eye, and that's what they, it was a joke one night, and then it became their band name.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember when that was all being thrown around. I think it was somebody's Jeep Wrangler. We were driving around Grosse Pointe one
Yeah,
night, like the
yeah, maybe.
fireworks or something. Anyways, and then that transformed into Hogan Says, which is your last name, and that was the band with Chris and everything. And then
Hmm.
when I moved back, we even tried to do a band thing with all of us, like a cover
Oh
band.
yeah, I forgot about that when we had that Molly or whatever.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was
that was cool.
fun, but I mean, I don't know.
We
That
were
was kind
all
of
off our
Yeah,
rockers
that
at
was a
that point,
weird
man.
situation. We were all in the worst places in all of our
We thought we
lives.
were in Motley Crue, but we weren't.
We were Motley Poo. Um, uh,
Yeah.
no, but so and then I moved back to Chicago and I started doing music again with my former bands that I had played in, like Smoke and Train and the Magical Pack Sniffian,
Mm,
and yeah. But
and
again,
that's
I
it.
stopped playing like 4 years ago. I miss it too. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I still have all my gear and stuff, and like I said, I recorded the intro to our podcasts, and I've done some, like if you've listened to on our YouTube channel, I recorded those meditation tracks for, you know, I think one of them's like a space meditation, the other one's like a more like a psychedelic meditation tracks. But I miss it. I mean, I like messing with the MIDI controller and recording stuff on there and doing all the different sounds and like soundscapes and stuff like that. But yeah, I miss playing in bands and live music and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. We've written some pretty good music together in the past too. I remember North Country Trail.
Yeah, we might actually have to do a reimagined version of that. That's a good tune, man.
Maurice and I wrote this song with acoustic guitars. There's this in northern Michigan. There's this hiking trail called North Country Trail, and there's this one spot where like two rivers converge, and there's this little like island thing that you can like kind of
It's
take
in
a
my
look.
video when I microdose and
Oh
that
yeah, we
thing.
have it on our channel actually, where Maurice goes on his little microdose walk
I
and
meditate there and
meditation.
stuff.
Yeah, and we stopped there and we wrote this song called North Country Trail. It's a banger. My
Yeah,
last band covered it or played it or
oh,
whatever.
nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like one of the that was actually I was talking to my uncle and he's like, you got to write the poop. You got to get the poop out of your system. So essentially, you just got to write enough songs where you just get the junk out. You know what I mean? And that when we wrote that song, I actually was like, wow, this is the beginning of something quality. We took an actual, you know, something that happened to us in a zone, and it was all connected, which is we were writing stuff just out of the blue. We were grabbing funny names and this and that, and it's like it's cool to do that. But when you write a song that actually has meaning to you, it takes away from the who cares if people like it or not. This means something to me, and that's what's important, I think. And that's what
Right.
all my music's about. It's like I don't really care if people feel the same thing I do because when I listen back to it, it captured exactly what I want. So I'm proud of that. And that's all you can do. And whatever happens after that happens after that. But it's therapeutic. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And there's something electric about playing your own music too and having like a bunch of people respond. I mean, we didn't play like a million shows when I played live music, but we played enough where we played for some bigger crowds at like craft beer festivals or
Nice.
these like benefits or there was battle of the bands and different things. And um I think that when you vibe like that and you see people react to something that you wrote or something that you put all your energy into, it's like a super, super good feeling. Now, that
Oh
being
yeah.
said, more people we've had over 1 million people watch or listen to this podcast. And the nice emails and messages and reviews and whatever far exceeds anything that I ever got from playing music. So, for me, the validation of switching from music to doing this podcast and going on this knowledge quest and talking with all these interesting authors and researchers and just being generally interested in these topics myself has validated my decision to, again, I can still play music. I have all my gear. If somebody's like, let's start a band or whatever, I would consider it, but it's just for
Hmm.
me, I just felt validated putting all my energy into this other thing, and I think I've grown as a person as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely. We're taking you along on our spiritual growth as well.
yeah, Maurice had his own spiritual awakening, which you can listen to that episode. I think it's called Maurice's Spiritual Awakening.
Very creative name. And that's exactly when the music started to come in. So the music actually had a lot to do with the awakening.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to the vibrations.
Yeah, and look, I love this journey. I mean, we've been doing this for over 4 years now. I mean, I know when we started, you were kind of hesitant, and you're like, just do it yourself, or I'll just be like a young Jamie type or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like you enjoy it more, and I
Yeah,
noticed
I like to see where this adventure is gonna take us. So
I really miss doing this too. We had that little month and a half hiatus, but
yeah,
I feel like that Egypt episode we did last, the mysteries and metaphysics, the Egypt slideshow. I thought that was a really good episode.
absolutely. Last couple of ones have been
Of course,
very good.
that Randall Carlson one before we went on that short hiatus was really good as well. But yeah, I don't know, good stuff. And like I said, I'll put all the links to Maurice's band and all the links after we're done. I'm going to re-upload this video. I'm going to combine it with the first part and re-upload it as one, just so people don't get confused. And on the audio platforms, I'm going to add his song to the end of. Well, I mean, it's up to you too. I could probably put it on here if you want to send me. I could add it into the video if you want to put your music video on YouTube at the end of this. I don't know if you want to do that, but if not, it'll just be up on the audio at the very end. Instead of our outro music, I'll have one of Maurice's band Dogo. I'll have one of their tracks up there.
Sweet.
Who's in your band?
Well, it's a different setup when we do live stuff, but essentially it's just me, my buddy Chris, who we've had on, and then our other
Chris
friend Tone.
Emerson. If you want to listen
Yeah,
to our we did a bunch of the earliest episodes we've done with Chris. He's got some interesting takes on Vedanta and Eastern philosophy. So those are interesting episodes to listen to.
yeah, he's unbelievable. I bring my songs to him. It's usually just a nice chord progression with the lyrics and stuff, and then I'm trying to go for more of a electronic. Now it's it's like rock electronic, but we use like sampled drums and stuff like that, and he does. We kind of work together on the drum beats, and then he does the bass and in the synth stuff, and then our buddy Tony Newhand sings on it, and it's coming together really good. I really like the way that it's almost like it's like giving a good actor, not like my lyrics are good, but when you give it to like someone that can really sing, it really amps them up, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you give a good script to a good actor, it takes it to a whole new level, and it's cool to see that because I sing it and I hear my because I have to sing the songs as the demos to give him ideas for the melody, and I'm like, this is brutal. But I know deep down I'm like, whatever. This is just to help get the guy knowing where we're going with this thing. Don't worry, this isn't the final product.
You should just sing it. Just throw the auto tune on and really
Yeah,
get
I've done. Oh,
after it.
I put trust me, I put auto tune on it too. I try and make these demos sound as best as possible because I don't
Well,
want to get these guys to hate me.
Logic Pro, they have you can do this thing now where you can actually change the pitch of your voice, like in the sequencing.
I mean, I don't want to sound like T-Pain, but
No,
yeah.
but what I'm saying is like with technology now, like when we recorded my one band CD, if somebody had a really good take but they just like messed up one note, I could transpose that one note into the note that it should have been, and it sounds flawless. It doesn't sound like it was. It's called I forget what it's called, but it's like something like flex pitch. I think that's what it's called, flex pitch. It's on Logic
Yeah.
Pro. You can use it
Yeah, and I'm
to.
not opposed to taking a couple like a note here or there and
But it's not auto tune. What you're doing is you're actually just taking the person's voice, and like let's say you sang an E, but you should have sang a D. I can change it to that D without making it sound
right,
like auto tune.
right. If I'm singing an E and I should have been singing a D, there's a problem there. That's
Yeah,
a big step. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
If it was a D sharp, it might be a different story.
No, but I was just trying to make a point. But yeah.
Like this guy's singing the wrong note altogether, man.
Um, I mean, I messed with it. One song I was recording, I made the background vocals sound like the Chipmunks because I
Yeah,
made it
that's
like
good.
super high pitched. It was kind of funny. But
And some reason they sold lots of Christmas albums. This guy
Dude,
sing a song and
Chipmunks are my
speed it
favorite
up.
Christmas
Oh yeah,
stuff,
I'm
dude.
sure.
Yeah. But yeah. So
Very
yeah,
good, man. Yeah.
I think so. I don't know. Are we gonna try and go live tomorrow night too and do the mysteries of metaphysics near death experiences?
I'm pretty free tomorrow. I think we can make that happen.
All right, let's do that episode tomorrow night. But yeah, so thanks everybody for watching and listening. So again, let Maurice speak.
Oh, I spoke.
He spoke a lot tonight, probably more than he has in a long time, which I thought it was a really good episode. I like talking about this kind of stuff. I know it's not our normal brand or our normal forte, but you know.
No, it's good to be less serious sometimes and have some fun, tell some old stories. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the band name is Doego, Doegoe. We're on YouTube. If you're on the platform right now, you might as well search that after and check out some of the tunes. We're going to leave some links below. If you're on Spotify, we're on there as well. And I appreciate Mike letting me use this as a platform to kind of get some of the music out there, man. It was nice of you.
Yeah, he asked me if we could do it. I'm like, of course we can do it. It's stupid. This is why we do this, is to help promote our endeavors and our projects. You know, like we're doing the documentary thing, and you know, we're doing this music thing for him, for Maurice, and like I said, maybe we'll do some music, Maurice and I together, or do some Patreon stuff or something like that. We'll figure that out in the future, but
Absolutely.
and yeah, like we're gonna try and again go live tomorrow night. We'll do Mysteries of Metaphysics 5.0. And I think it'll be a near-death experiences, which is another topic that we're super interested in. And actually, Doego, the name of your band, that's kind of like just a nickname. Like, you know, over the years, first of all, if anybody doesn't know, Maurice's name growing up was actually Kevin. Everybody called him Kevin, okay? I called him Kevin. I still call him Kevin. I don't call him Maurice. I mean,
Yeah, it's
uh,
ingrained.
so his middle name's actually Kevin, but his first name's Maurice. But everybody called him Kevin growing up. And even if you probably pulled people from our high school, they'd probably say Kevin or who's this Maurice guy, because he changed it like after that. So, but anyways, that's besides the point. So it was Kevin, and then it was Maurice, and then it was Dogan because his last name's Hogan, and then we
This thing really morphed.
Dogon. Get Laird in here. Laird Scran start talking about the Dogon. It's actually
I
Dogan.
wanted to name it Dogon, but it was
Yeah.
I was trying to find a .com that was not taken, and I also was trying to find a name that wasn't overly used because it's just I want to be my own entity, which it's impossible now to find something that isn't used by a million people. But I think Dogo, the way we spell it, isn't. So that's the genesis of the
So
name.
Dogan, all that, and that's where Dogo comes from. Is we get weird. We used to party hard, and we just start rambling. And actually, Maurice and his cousin had kind of like a weird language back in the day, and we had our own weird language ourselves, and then we'd have weird languages together growing up, and
yeah,
that's where all this stuff comes from.
I have like 15 nicknames,
like zucchini bread, Zakanak Brock.
Yeah. All you do is just use Kund of change the rules.
Yeah, and there's just lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. We've always been creative. Let's just put it at that.
Yeah, we've always been super weird too.
I was talking to my friend today. I was telling him about this short movie idea I have. He's like, "How do you think of this stuff?" I'm like, I don't know, man. It comes into my head.
Yeah, I mean, again, these were all from like weirder times where there was no internet or social media, and people had to interact with each other in person and things of that nature. But yeah, so check out Maurice's stuff. I'm going to put all the links in there. And again, if you listen to our podcast, we are no longer on SoundCloud. I've taken the player off of our website. I don't even think anything's available on there anymore. Everything's on Anchor. So Anchor is our host for our podcast now. Also, we're still on Spotify. We're still on Apple. We're still on Podcast Addict. We're still on pretty much all platforms. In fact, if we're not on a platform, send me an email to mindescapepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that we get on there. I think we're on all of them, though. Before we get out of here, everybody head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For just $2 a month, you'll get exclusive guest episodes and segments. Tons of amazing conversations on there. And actually, a lot of when I upload our segments, it's usually the video, so YouTube, and an audio version. So if people just want to watch or just want to listen. But since, again, SoundCloud is out of the picture now, I had everything running through there. I'm going to upload all of the audio ones, and I already started doing it. All the ones from the past, I'm re-uploading them just onto Patreon. So look for those if you're already a Patreon member. Also, we're on Discord if you want to come chat with us. We've got some good banter on there as well. And eventually I'm going to try and get back to doing some Twitter Spaces. I was doing Twitter Spaces with people for a while, and they were enjoying it. But, obviously I have my little munchkin now, so I don't have as much time, but we'll try and make that happen. T-shirts, these are the designs from our merch store if you're interested. Cool stuff. Again, based on tonight, you see that Let Maurice Speak there down in the middle. I think it's a great silhouette of what Maurice looks like, so check that out.
Literally from a picture of me, so
literally from a picture of him. See
my North Face jacket and all.
So yeah, check out our merch store and head on over to indrasweb.org. It is live. This is a social media platform we created to connect open minds. So if you want to hypothesize, theorize, speculate, perfect place to do it. And if you are interested in winning this Mind Escape t-shirt, we have larges and mediums left. So if you think that'll fit you and you want to enter to win, all you have to do is go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, take a screenshot of it, and then send it to mindscapepodcast@gmail.com. That'll enter you to win. Thank you to the 4 people that did enter to win last week. And I will pick a winner at the end of March. And if you want to check out our stuff, you can listen to our podcast on our website, mindescapepodcast.com. But I just put everything onto a Linktree link, which is down below. So all of our social media, all of our merch, our Patreon, every single link that we have is on our Linktree. So if you're looking for anything having to do with our show, just go check out our Linktree. And that's it. We're going to try and go live tomorrow night and discuss near-death experiences. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Maurice, for sharing a lot of, as he would say, juicy tidbits.
Yeah, baby.
And
well, someone's already subscribed to the Dogo channel, so I should give them a shout out. I'm not sure who it was, but I see 4 of you guys in the room right here. I'm expecting 4 more subscribers.
Okay.
Hey.
I will share that around as well on our social media accounts.
You the man.
And that's it. Again, if you're watching this or you did watch this, I'm going to re-upload this with the other part combined because we lost internet connection with Maurice earlier. And if you're listening on an audio platform, enjoy his track, which I'm going to add at the end here. And yeah, that's it. We've got the next few months, I'm working on scheduling a bunch of guests too. So, I mean, if people don't know how this format works, we usually try and get guests. Sometimes we don't have guests, though. We're going to do the show regardless. So tonight was one of those episodes, and we have slideshow episodes that we just do ourselves, and we have certain series that we just do ourselves, but we do also have guests. And yeah, I'm working on getting a bunch of guests for the next few months. So, and if anybody has any suggestions, send us an email. So we're always down for that.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, we love everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.